You've probably told yourself you could never join a cult. You're too smart, too skeptical, too independent. Here's the uncomfortable truth: that belief is exactly what makes you a target, not despite your intelligence, but because of it. The people who study cult psychology will tell you the same thing every single time. Education, intelligence, and critical thinking provide almost no protection at all. Some of the most devastating cults in history were stocked full of doctors, engineers, and lawyers. So if it's not about intelligence, what is it about? Turns out, cult leaders figured out something about the human brain decades before psychologists had the research to back it up. And the techniques they used aren't rare or exotic. They are sitting inside marketing, dating, politics, and social media right now, today, aimed at you. Here's a story most people believe: cult members are brainwashed. Some mysterious psychological switch gets flipped, their free will gets erased, and they become puppets. It's a comforting story because it lets you believe it could never happen to you. It's also not how it works. There is no magic switch, no hypnosis, no drug that erases a personality in one session. What actually happens is slower, subtler, and far more mundane, which is exactly why it's so effective. Real psychological research on coercive groups, going back to Robert Cialdini's work on influence and Robert Lifton's studies on thoughts reform, shape the same pattern again and again. Cult recruitment doesn't break you down all at once. It moves you one small, reasonable feeling step at a time. In 1966, two researchers ran an experiment that, on the surface, had nothing to do with cults at all. They went door to door asking homeowners to put a small, unobtrusive sign in their window. Almost everybody said yes. It was such a tiny request. Weeks later, they came back and asked some of those same homeowners for something much bigger: a large, ugly sign on their front lawn. Homeowners who agreed to the small request were dramatically more likely to agree to the larger one, compared to people who were never asked the small favor at all. The researchers called it the foot in the door technique. Saying yes to something small rewires how you see yourself. You start to see yourself as the kind person who says yes to this cause. Cult recruitment runs on the same exact engine. Nobody gets asked to give up their family, their savings, and their identity on day one. They get asked to attend one meeting, then one weekend retreat, then one small donation, then a bigger one. Each yes makes the next yes easier. Not because you are brainwashed, but because you are protecting your own self-image as someone who's consistent. Humans have a documented, measurable need for belonging, and one of the most reliable ways to override someone's judgment is to flood that need before they realize what's happening. Former members of high control groups consistently describe the same early experience: an overwhelming, almost suspicious amount of warmth, constant attention, being told, often within days of meeting people, that they're seen, understood, and loved in ways that they've never experienced before. Researchers and former members call this love bombing. It works because isolation and loneliness are not just emotional states, they're measurable, physiological stressors. And the people offering this sudden, intense belonging are also the same people slowly encouraging distance from their friends and family who might ask questions. By the time a real demand shows up, the group isn't just a belief system, it's the only social structure left standing. Social psychiatrist Henry Tajfel spent years studying something deceptively simple: how quickly humans form us versus them thinking. His experiments found that people would favor their own randomly assigned group over a group they've been split from arbitrarily on a coin flip, almost immediately. No history, no real stakes, just a label. Now layer a real cult structure onto that wiring. A leader who tells you that you and your group possesses a hidden truth the outside world is too blind, corrupt, or asleep to see. Suddenly, every piece of doubt from outside isn't evidence against the group. It's proof the group is right. The outside world disagreeing becomes confirmation, not contradiction. This is why cult members so often describe feeling smarter and more awake than the people around them, even as their actual independent decision-making is disappearing in real time. In the early 1960s, Stanley Milgram ran the most famous obedience experiment in psychology. Ordinary people were instructed by an authority figure to deliver what they believed were increasingly painful electric shocks to another person. Most participants continued far longer than anyone predicted, not because they were cruel, but because the situation itself, not their personal character, was doing the heavy lifting. This is the part cult psychology research keeps confirming. Situational pressure consistently overrides personal disposition. Intelligence doesn't grant immunity to it because intelligence was never the variable in play. The variable is structure surrounding you, the incremental commitments, the engineered belonging, the us versus them framing. Put a brilliant, skeptical person inside that exact structure, gradually, and the outcome is not meaningfully different. Here's the part that should actually worry you. None of these mechanisms required a literal cult to keep operating. Multi-level marketing organizations have been documented using nearly identical incremental commitment structures. Extremist online communities use the exact us versus them identity fusion Tajfel documented, just with hashtags instead of ropes. Even ordinary algorithm-driven social media feeds use a milder version of isolation and belonging dynamics, quietly quantifying your need for in-group approval and feeding it back to you, one notification at a time. The mechanisms didn't disappear when society got more educated and more connected. They just got more efficient and more invisible. So no, this was never really a video about cults. It's about the fact the same handful of psychological levers, small commitments that escalate, manufactured belonging, and us versus them identity, and situational pressure that overrides personal character are not locked away in compounds in the desert. They are baked into recruitment pitches, comment sections, multi-level marketing presentations, and the app sitting on your phone right now. You were never protected by being smart. You're protected by recognizing the pattern while it's still small enough to walk away from. Drop a comment. Have you ever noticed one of these patterns being used on you, at work, in a relationship, or online, and caught it before it went further? This is Sketchy Files, and I'll see you in the next one.